we don't see an Article 15 from it. I'm just kidding.
I'm past those. I'm hoping. Is Dr. O'Brien on as well?
He is.
Oh, there he is. There we go. I just want to make sure I get him up and see his smiling face too. There we go. Okay, so I'll get you started with a little bit of an introduction and we'll go from there. So, hey, welcome everyone. Today we're thrilled to have two leaders discussing veteran health and innovation. First, Dr. James C. O'Brien, MD, FCC, a whole bunch of other letters. A board-certified sleep medicine specialist with almost 50 years of experience as a medical doctor or director of sleep services at NTIC and medical advisor to the Elpis Alliance. He pioneers pulmonary critical care and sleep medicine to improve mental health for veterans. With him is Court Marshall, an expert in process excellence, Lean Six Sigma, change management. He's led transformative projects and recently joined Seven Eagle Academy with Dr. O'Brien to impact veteran communities. Together, they advance the Elpis Alliance, a nonprofit eliminating military and veteran suicide through sleep restoration, key to combating PTSD and depression, affecting 80% of at-risk veterans. Their goals: provide assessments, rehab, community ties, and tech for well-being and life-saving interventions. Welcome, gentlemen. I managed to get it all in that big mouthful.
Right on.
Doc, you're muted.
Well, that's okay. I'll get started. Hey, so I'm happy to be here along with Dr. O'Brien. He'll be able to share a little bit more of his background with you as he comes off of mute. I want to make sure.
Mood's gone.
Yeah, right on. Ernie, can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
All right, good deal. I just want to say good day to everyone, especially everyone who's part of the Seven Eagle family. As mentioned, I'm the co-founder of the Elpis Alliance for Veterans. Our mission is simple and for the most part bold. We're improving mental health and supporting veterans that really focus in on systems that improve physiology, rebuild identity, and reconnect veterans with serving a purpose greater than themselves. I'm going to share with you a little bit of the work that we're doing relative to sleep and how it's really underestimated in the overall physiology and mental health and well-being. And it becomes a really powerful doorway to developing clarity and readiness and longer life. And in the interest of audience participation, I just did a little fact checking on myself. So I want to see if you can enter into the chat your answer to this question before we get started. I just checked my fireproof box at the house, and I have no less than 5 DD-214s. So I've transitioned off of active duty 5 times in 36 years. I'm still serving as a reservist. So I would like to see is if you could drop into the chat how many DD-214s you have, just to calibrate where that stands. So, all right, Ernie's got 6, 1. All right, so we got some zeros. If you have 0, I would assume that you're getting ready to transition and you're due a DD-214. So, all right, good deal. As the answers are coming in, so thanks for that audience participation. When you think about where we're going today and what we're going to cover, we're not going to be able to cover everything that does this topic justice. And so we're going to jump into these slides. But before I do, I want to offer the floor to Dr. O'Brien for him to introduce himself. And the next slide, we'll cover a little bit more of the why and what we're doing.
Hey, Dr. O here. Doing sleep for a long time, and I discovered how important sleep was 40 years ago when I was a pulmonologist, critical care clinician. I also did some sleep for the Boston Celtics in 2008, where they won their first championship after 22-year hiatus. They had some sleep issues back then that I helped them with. Very attuned to sleep, the importance of sleep. Sleep is not just an on-off switch. Sleep is a 4-course meal. You got to learn how to eat your meal, make time for your meal in order to get the best out of who you are. Very excited about helping individuals improve themselves, and became aware of some sleep disorders prevent individuals from getting into REM sleep. And REM sleep is where your brain heals itself, cures itself, helps with PTSD. You got to dream. You got to be able to get into dream, but you can't wake up when you're dreaming. That's a sleep disorder, and that sleep disorder is sometimes related to how we breathe. Sometimes how we breathe causes us not to be able to get into dream sleep. If we get into dream sleep and stay there, we won't know we're having the nightmare, but our brain is fixing the nightmare while we are asleep. So I put those two things together. My most recent patient is a 6-year-old girl with PTSD because her cousin was showing her a movie on the red spider and freaked her out. She hasn't slept in months. All of these things are common, more common than we know, helping the veteran relinquish what they've gone through and become who they are as civilians is where I stand to help them achieve that goal. And that's why I'm here today, to start that process for some of you, if not all of you. Over.
Right on. Thanks, Doc. And before we jump to the next slide, so I imagine that the team that's assembled here, you've been on a marathon run of information coming at you. Just to help me calibrate where you are, there's a question I've put on the slide decks. I put multiple questions in red. So if you're reading ahead and absorbing the slide as we're talking, I would ask that you feel comfortable putting the answer into the chat as well. So just as a general question, where are you today as just kind of your own situational awareness, cognitive awareness on where you are? Are you curious, exhausted, stuck, ready, or you can offer up another option? So I'll jump to the next slide as the answers are coming in. So thanks for the answers, team. So you should be seeing the second slide now. I had a chance to go and work with some folks building out something called the Financial Fortress. And we're looking at this as a way to identify financial stress for veterans. I know we all hear about the stats, 22 a day, but the numbers aren't actionable to save lives. They're just an output, an outcome. But systems do. We believe that the system that we've assembled here and what we're doing right now for veterans as they transition, but also as they're finding their way of belonging to something greater themselves, that transition can be disrupted if their sleep is not where it needs to be, or not even knowing where their sleep performance is. And the other part that Dr. O'Brien and Dr. Mentasti take a look at is the airway itself. And what we see is that that airway and that blockage of the airway, as it impacts your sleep, it ultimately can mimic post-traumatic stress and contribute to anxiety and depression. So we're looking at ways to measure sleep performance, how it can be improved. And we recognize that it doesn't happen overnight, and we'll get into more of those details. But Doc just mentioned about we're seeing the evidence where sleep is fragmented and it causes other downstream effects. So Doc, I think you've kind of touched on this subject a little bit. You wanted to expand a little bit here. I know that what you can read on the slide shares with you where I was and the experiences I was having as I left my last active duty assignment in
the biggest thing I notice with veterans or first responders is that they live in a stress mode. Their life is predominantly a stress mode. And neurologically, a stress mode is we have two power grids in our body. I'll get into this at another time in another place. But we have one power grid, which is survival mode. And that's where most first responders and vets reside. And the other power mode is parasympathetic, is the R&R, rest and recovery. We don't get much of that regularly, which is what we need on the civilian side of things and what we need in terms of being the best of who we can be at the time. So what I discovered is that, yes, survival mode is important when we need to survive. But on the other side of that, we need to be able to get to R&R when we go to sleep each and every night. And that is a challenge. We have to learn how to do that the way it was, the way Mother Nature intended. So those are the two elements that we have to be cognizant of and understand that sleep should be a natural thing. It shouldn't have to be a gauntlet that we have to go through every night to achieve it. It should be as natural as breathing air, drinking water, eating food, going to the bathroom, and not be the struggle that it is. Because when it is a struggle, it's because we're doing things we don't know we're doing that are undermining it, or we have things we don't know we have, which is a sleep disorder that's interrupting with our sleep, causing us to have nightmares associated with our breathing most commonly. Over.
Right. So thanks for that, Doc. And what I'm going to do now is look at the question. I've got the question at the bottom of the screen, and let's do a slight pivot here to maximize participation. If what we just shared with you as this kind of what we felt and what we did, if this resonates, give us a thumbs up. If you have something else that's a little bit different than what we shared, raise your hand and we can field that question. So I see some thumbs going up on the, okay, great. And I don't see, okay, a lot of thumbs up. Good deal. All right, cool. All right. So unless there's a specific question, or maybe somebody has a departure from that, or we haven't, if we're not talking to you, let us know and we can adjust some of our concepts, because I assure you, we have hours and hours of content on this, but a very narrow window to get our message across. Okay. Someone came off
Appreciate
mic.
that. Appreciate the feedback.
On mic. Okay, great. All right, I'm jumping to the next slide. When you think about feeling off, I know that I kind of get the feeling every once in a while. I had a conversation with my wife not long ago about being out of sorts, and I wrote some things about how do we recognize when we're feeling out of sorts. It's our belief that when you can fix sleep first, everything else becomes easier to fix. Your energy, your mood, your discipline, the motivation. How do you develop your clarity? I know for me, brain fog was a big part of me navigating my way forward. And then once you're able to get that, then performance will rise automatically. I think about the idea of getting a good night's sleep before you go for a job interview and figuring out, preparing and being able to retain information. And then in that moment, you get to be yourself. Really, at the end of it, the sleep is the only time the brain really drains metabolic waste. And there's a lot of technical detail that the doc can cover, but it consolidates trauma and does a reset of your threat perception. And if you're not getting to those critical stages of sleep, and just as another concept, heart rate variability is your report card. And we recognize the importance that the airway obstruction creates that false post-traumatic loop by triggering those nightly panic cycles. So Doc, I'm going to give you the floor to run through some of those details, and I'm going to ask the team to get ready to kind of think about the last time that maybe they felt off and what best describes the place that they felt off. Was it midday crash, mornings, energy, mood, and clarity? So Doc, go ahead.
When humans were created 100,000 years ago, somebody who knows more than all of us put together thought it important enough that sleep be present in our lives and represent 1/3 of the human existence. 1/3. So if you're 75 years old, you've been asleep 25 years, or you should have been. If you're 40 years old, or you should be, you should be like 12 years of your life has spent sleeping. Sleeping is that important. Understand this, that if the brain doesn't get the sleep it needs, it's going to sleep during the daytime. What do they call that? ADHD. Let me say that again. If you're not getting the sleep, your brain's going to have part of your brain shut down during the day so it can get what it needs to get rid of the wastes that are building up in your consciousness and can lead to dementia or pre-dementia because you're not sleeping well. You need to get your sleep at night consolidated, one big scoop of sleep. You got to drill down. Stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, stage 4. It's a dance. It's a meal worth having every night. But if you don't get enough time to sleep, you're going to be in survival mode. Thank God you're in survival mode because you're lethal and you're efficient. But in civilian life, we want to get into the appetizer, the soup, the entree, and the dessert, and learn how to sleep and let your body give back what it's capable of giving using the other power grid that you don't use very often called R&R. And so it's very important to learn how to sleep again. And sleep is not something that really is hard to do. You just have to not do things that screw it up, not do things that make it harder to achieve, not have behaviors in your life that you're doing with light signatures at nighttime that interfere with your melatonin secretion and allow you to not get to where you need to be, where you want to be, until you're so exhausted you pass out. That's not the sleep I'm talking about. I'm talking about learning how to sleep, learning the combination lock that you need to do on yourself every night so you go through the sequencing you need to do to get to where you deserve to be, where you forgot to be, where you never were. But you can learn. I don't care how old you are. I'm old. I'm learning, and I appreciate what I've learned and want to share that with everybody on this call and everywhere else because it's so important. And why we don't learn it is it's wrong. It's wrong that we haven't learned the secrets. These should not be secrets. These should be evident for everybody to achieve with regularity. Over.
Yeah. Right on, Doc. Okay, so Doc, thanks for that. And I've been Ernie and I have been monitoring the chat. So I think my hats off to Juliet for saying that she's feeling called out. So it sounds as though we may have struck a chord with someone being identified in the audience. You're relating to what we're talking about. With that said, let's go ahead and fill up the chat now if we can with when you think of the last time you felt off, what area was it in? Was it in the midday crash, the mornings, energy, mood, clarity? Where were you feeling off? 2 p.m. We got an answer at 2 p.m. already. Okay, so the midday. All right. Anyone else? Energy and mood, midday. Okay. Midday crash, mood and clarity. Okay. We're seeing Doc, in my unscientific poll, we're getting a little bit of midday crash. Go ahead. Ernie, was that you?
Oh, no. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I thought the mic came on.
No, I just said consistent.
Yeah.
So we
All right,
should
so let's
have
talk.
we
Go ahead,
should
Doc.
have our battery charged in the morning to the extent that we can go throughout the day and be at our top level. We should. If we can't, we can get there, but we have to learn what we're not doing right or what we need to do better so that we can achieve that. If you're tired when you first get up in the mornings, it usually has to do with the quality of your sleep, or you didn't get enough to begin with because of whatever. Everybody's different. So we have to take each of you and go through a process and have you learn what you're doing so you can learn to do it right, and then see the difference in your power grids, because you can measure using devices that allow you to know if you're in your sympathetic tone or parasympathetic tone, and use that as a guide to help you navigate your own individual self. Over.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Doc. And I got to tell you, this next slide follows that line of discussion for what Dr. O'Brien just shared. And in particular, I want to let you know, and Ernie has some probably relevant testimony on this one. So we have an 8-week program, our Sleep Savant program. It's really precision guided. The veterans and their families who participate in this receive coaching, both peer coaching, peer mentoring, but also from the team. And we use wearable tracking devices. And most importantly, we're looking to see what we can do to help restore the flow of air so that you have a better night's sleep. And we've mentioned a lot of terminology associated with sleep in general, but just know that our approach is a crawl, walk, run. We don't throw too much information at you all at once. We build habits and behaviors. So when I think about centralized medicine, they're really good at the idea that they want to either cut you, drug you, or make you bionic. That's just the protocol. What we're introducing is that fourth option of how to teach you to collect better habits that optimize for you, not everybody. It's not cookie cutter. And so when the doc mentions the piece about Garmin and heart rate variability, how is your sleep staging, what's your VO2 max, and we can see where the improvements are occurring for you. So when you think about maybe a time where you've measured something or you've gotten a chance to really get a good AAR and feedback, think about that moment of clarity and insight. And how many of you, just by either a thumbs up, knew that your gut was telling you something and you got the data to prove it, and how you felt after that win? So maybe just give a thumbs up or a confirmation that that's happened for you. Yeah, my gut was telling me that this is not the best food to be eating before I go to bed. Okay. Good deal.
Yeah. On my side, I can say that after about the second week, in paying attention, doing stuff, my sleep started getting better. And then by the time the 8th week came along, I'd sent Cord a thing. It was the first time I ever got a 99 on the sleep score. And I was like in the 30s and 40s when I started.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for jumping in on that one, Ernie. All right, so half a step back. So I'm gonna briefly mention this one and then send it over to Dr. O'Brien on this one. Half a step back. I wrote some things in our webpage and our blog post about taking a half a step back. It's not to be viewed as a negative. Some of the best leadership moments for me were realizing that whether I was using MDMP or whatever the case may be, I needed to take just half a step back and gain perspective. And what we're discovering is that the veterans that we support, as they are getting through their struggle, their airflow is compromised and they're not able to get to that deep sleep. And we're developing exactly things that help support them. And we'll get into those way in more detail. Should you want to learn more about this, there's a lot of what we call sleep hygiene techniques, as well as a checklist that you can follow in order to optimize that. So, Doc, I'd love for you to share a little bit more about that half a step back and the information as it informs our guidance and coaching for veterans.
Yeah, sure. In thinking about how to describe this in an easy, digestible way, one of the best things I can think of is, think of it like a seesaw. And on one side of the seesaw is insomnia, and the other side of the seesaw is sleep. And each one of us has a seesaw, and each one of these seesaw is made up of four things. One, do I have a sleep disorder? I don't know. Usually someone with a sleep disorder is the last person to know. Two, do I sleep in an environment which is impractical and not compatible with good quality sleep? I'll give you a clue. It should look like a cave. You should sleep in your own cave. Three, am I taking medications that doctors say I should take because I need them, but these medications prevent me from getting into the deep sleep I need for my brain to heal itself? Gee, I hope not, but maybe. Four, am I doing drugs, alcohol, caffeine? Am I doing stuff that erodes the quality of my sleep and prevents me from drilling down through all the quality levels of sleep? So think of a seesaw with four boxes on it: environment, meds, drugs, a sleep disorder. And depending upon what your seesaw looks like, it's tilted. It's tilted towards insomnia, or it's tilted towards excessive daytime sleepiness. It tilts. So your job, your mission, should you decide to accept it, is to find out what's in your boxes on your seesaw. It may take you 8 weeks. It may take you 6 weeks. It's worth learning what it is, because when you learn what's in your boxes on your seesaw and what you can do to change it slightly, you're going to discover that you have more influence over your insomnia and your sleepiness than you thought. So that's the simplest way I can take extremely complicated medical information distilled in my brain after decades of funkiness between my earlobes and help you realize what you could consider trying and learning for your sleep. When you have a watch that gives you your stress level, which is another way of saying the power grid that your body's currently using, when you get into it in depth, you'll be able to realize that when you do one thing on one night, maybe it's alcohol. Well, that night is not going to be as good as the night before when you had no alcohol, and you can actually see the stress levels or the heart rate variability occur. Or if you practice your breathing, the breathing that you need to practice involving your other power grid is your diaphragm. Your diaphragm is the only muscle that works on your parasympathetic tone. I know it's getting technical, but you'll get it. That muscle allows you access to that part of your brain that you don't use because you're in survival mode. And I get it. Being in survival mode is important and necessary, but not a 24/7. So when we look at doing all of these things, we learn what our seesaw is. We develop our own combination lock of what each of us as an individual needs to do to improve their own sleep and see the results of the changes that they make. And okay, if you mess up, it's not like sliding down the mountain. If you mess up in this process, you don't slide down to the bottom again. You mess up, you change, you back up, you regroup, you advance, and you see the improvements in that advancement the next day or the next night. So it's a process where you're battling, struggling, going through what is your own personal gauntlet, your sleep gauntlet. But ultimately, when you get to the other side, going to sleep is like, hey, taking a drink of water, taking a big deep breath of air, getting that blast of sun in the morning, and doing things you haven't thought about doing because it's naturally healthy. And it all is what we've been doing as human beings for for 100,000 years. So not much has changed except the light bulb. We'll get into that another time. The light bulb has screwed up everything. But beyond that, I'm going to stop. Over.
You're right about the light.
Yeah. So yes. So I'm gonna open this up for questions, or maybe if there's a member of the team, Ernie, if you could think about sharing your experience of half a step back, and if anyone has a half a step back story they want to share, it doesn't have to be on the sleep topic, just your experience on recognizing you were too close to the problem and try and solve it without having to take half a step back. So Ernie, what are your thoughts on that?
For me, it was like the big thing was like alcohol, food, and light. We all hear these little things about it, but it really hit me the other day because me and my wife went out to her work Christmas party. I had 2 beers. The first time I've had anything to drink at night for like months, and wasn't drunk, wasn't feeling it, but boy, did I sleep like a bag of crap that night. And that was to me like, holy cow, there's something to this. Like the light thing and all that stuff. But after I'd been doing really well for a while, and then went to a Christmas party, man, I was miserable all the next day. It was just that one half step back, and I didn't recognize it until I got into that program and started hearing and seeing other people and doing it. And I was like, yep, okay, there's something to it. It would get me to sleep, but it was terrible sleep, and I wasn't getting in enough.
Yeah, I definitely. So Ernie, on that note, if I could just pull the thread a little bit,
Sure.
one of the things that your story is common amongst our participants is that the use of alcohol certainly aids in the ability to go to sleep, self-medicated, but it doesn't, it has a counter effect on restorative sleep. So you'll be knocked out, but you won't be getting the restorative sleep that you need, and you'll pay for it down the road. And any type of there's a lot in the news now, and I defer from the politics about the informed consent, but there's some new legislation being introduced for veterans that get after informed consent in a way that hasn't been done before. And I would hope that this leads to a path where veterans have a better personal agency on recognizing what drugs knock them out, but don't actually help them get restorative sleep. So big topic coming there. However, you can influence your legislators to support that informed consent bill that's on the floor. As veterans, we owe it to those coming up behind us for that informed consent in the future. So that's as far as I'm going to go on the politics of it, but I thought that was relevant for our audience. Go ahead, Ernie.
On the medication side too, like Doc had me on some medication to help me sleep through the night. I haven't taken it for months, and I've slept better.
Yeah. So there's you're the N1. You're the N of one, the one of one experiment that says you were asleep, but it wasn't restorative. So
yeah,
that gets us a little deeper into when those that work with us in the areas that they specialize in, we bring that right balance of we're about participants first, and we help veterans if they have a VA track for what they need. And in some cases, we can provide donations from from those angels that donate to our cause. We're able to keep all of our work right now as a cost-free, no obligation, cost-free experience for the veterans. And we can talk more about the sleep readiness checklist. I think Ernie, you talked about it already. For my personal experience on that checklist, we're happy to share it. The routine that I got to is staying within 30 minutes of sleep and wake times to have the least amount of disruption, and eliminating just that feeling of being tired when I wake up. So that for me is gone. So when you think, when everyone on the call right now thinks about their experience and what your body sends you for a signal, what are some hints that line up with the way you're feeling? So the question to drop into the chat is, how do you know you're not doing well? What are the things that inform you of that? Maybe there's no right or wrong answer to this one. How do you know when you're not quite yourself? What's your indicator? Okay, so heart rate increase, memory's not there. Okay. Yeah, you don't have as much energy for the workout. Yep. Lauren said being snippy. Yeah, I think I'm remembering a short fuse and a short temper. I am in this little path right now where I'm realizing just because you don't understand it doesn't mean I didn't explain it right.
I can't understand it for you.
I can't understand it for you. Yeah. All right. Good.
So I'll comment on the comments that we have achieved by saying a couple things. That remember that sleep is a 4-course meal, and stage 1, 2, and 3 has their own sleep disorders that can attack you, has their own challenges that you have to learn about to avoid. It's all easily it's in your manual, but it's in the manual in your glove compartment. You just haven't read it, and it makes your hormones. It does all these positive things, but when it comes to REM, when it comes to dream sleep, if you don't get enough REM sleep, what happens is short-term memory, not as good, takes more energy to focus, takes more energy to concentrate, takes more effort to not have a short fuse, takes more effort to have patience, not be moody, anxious, depressed. That's REM. REM is the holy grail for neurocognitive impairments that have caused the diagnosis of ADHD. I say ADHD is secondary to a sleep disorder until proven otherwise. I know that's not an accurate term. I apologize, but I don't really. You have to fix the sleep of everybody with a diagnosis of ADHD in order to know how much ADHD is coming from within. You got to. That's what I say. That's me. I recommend that highly because all of these issues associated with insufficient sleep or poor quality sleep affect the neurocognitive function or the hormones or the obesity epidemic. We don't have an obesity epidemic. What we have is a sleep deprivation epidemic that causes ghrelin, Grelin, leptin, Leptin. Look it up. They get released and those hormones cause obesity formation. And they occur if the quality of sleep is less than 6 hours. You could be sleeping 7 or 8, but you're not getting good quality. So all of this stuff is low-hanging fruit as far as Dr. O is concerned, and you need to address it in order to establish what are the culprits in everybody's individual challenges with sleep and insomnia, so we can get rid of the fluff, the noise, and get down to the signal. Over.
Yeah, Doc, you're the one person that I would say that after 40 years of experience, your opinion certainly carries weight with me. And the fact that centralized medicine was able to quickly diagnose and assert certain ADHD concepts, and the only way we can reverse that belief system is through a double-blind, placebo-controlled, peer-reviewed, IRB-approved concept. It's an artificial barrier. So the point I'm making is our organization makes a difference by those that we serve, and we're not necessarily interested in whether or not we're fully accepted by that placebo-controlled, double-blind, IRB-approved study, right? We're making it happen. So we got a question, I think, Ernie, from Monique.
Monique, go ahead. Oh, you're on mute.
Oh, Monique, you're consulting with the expert. You send it.
Dr. O'Brien, I love when you say over. I think that's awesome. I have a question for couples. Is there any recommendations you have if the couple has a different wake rhythm? Like for me, waking up, I'll wake up, but it takes me about 40 minutes to actually, like I'm slowly waking, but it takes me about 40 minutes to actually get my foot out of the bed. Whereas, your partner might wake up and can jump up. And is there any recommendations you have for couples with different wake rhythms?
That's tricky. I think recognizing that you have differences, number one. Number two, working to build bridges between your differences so that you can share the appropriate time together is important. Number three, if they're shot out of a cannon, when they wake up in the morning, then they can do things that only a cannon can do, and they can do it in another room. 4, if you're slow to wake up, you like the exposure to bright sunshine blasting through your bedroom window. It's kind of like the sleep circadian rhythm that you need. Understand that we're all different. The fact that we get married and love each other forever is not the fact that we have to do everything at the same time. We don't breathe the same. We don't eat the same. We don't drink the same. We don't do lots the same. And we all have our individual serial number of what we need. Some people need 4 or 5 hours of sleep in 24 hours and they're A-okay. Some people need 10 and they're A-okay. It's not like we can adjust who that is. But in the military, yes, we do. We become sleep deprived, we become efficient, we become lethal, and we do it until the mission is over. And for some, the mission's never over. And what I'm offering is an understanding that we need to establish R&R more often in all of our lives, because that's what nature intended, and Mother Nature would like us all to be there when we can, and when our sleep cave is comfortable, safe, and the correct temperature, environment, et cetera, et cetera. Over.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, Monique, not only do I love Dr. O's answer, I'll offer perspective as well. If someone joins our sleep program, our goal is to, whenever possible, to have husband and wife, if they're able to participate together. And then what I'll also say, and I like some of the comments that Lauren's mentioned in here, separate beds and 2 different bed covers. What we are finding, and then Doc, I just want to give you a reapproach on this one. Monique, what we are finding is that when couples develop new habits together, some of that gap between what they do differently, whether it's because of their natural behavior patterns or things they like to do or don't like to do, we're finding that they're coming closer to the same habits. So I can say from my personal experience, I used to be 2 hours different on when my wife went to bed and when I went to bed, and it's closer to half an hour, 45 minutes now. But I didn't get there overnight. I had to be wearing blue blocking lenses to send the signal to make me tired, and I chose not to watch as much. So I had to develop habits to get there. Now we're waking up closer to the same time in the morning, and I can say that my journey on this program, my cortisol is doing exactly what it's supposed to do, forcing me to wake up and not be tired. I don't need an alarm. I just go. So I think part of the answer is develop habits together as a couple, and you'll reap the benefits and come closer to similarities. But I think Doc makes his point that differences are okay too. You just have to accommodate for those. So Doc, any readdress on that one?
None. Over.
Okay.
Closing the gap together. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean that's just me being the Lean Six Sigma guy, where I don't want to go special cause variation. I want to pinch and shift and have a central limit that says make things more similar across a wider time. So
There's not a problem there. There's an opportunity, Monique.
Yep. All right. So great questions. Ernie, are we still good for time? I want to make sure we only have a couple more slides to go, and we can still answer some questions at the end.
You're good.
When we think about the system, the operating system that we have, we're really in the space of helping you develop cognitive awareness and identify what emotions are supportive of your goal and where we're going. We're eager and looking forward to extending our integration and work with 7 Eagle, and we really see this as a force multiplier for how do we support veterans going forward. And I mentioned the My N1X, it's personalized. So we don't know exactly what goes into that seesaw analogy that the doc identified. And there's different readiness components throughout the day. Some of you talked about morning, some of you talked about midday, a lot of you talked about midday crash. There's also a portion that you can send the signal to your body and to your brain to start winding down. So the question I have for you, in the last 24 hours, what part of that rhythm cycle were you Were you at your strongest? And how did you know? So where were you at your strongest in the cycle of the day? What do you think you were optimal? Go ahead and enter the answers there, and we'll jump to the next slide. What cycle of the day were you at your best? Okay, Lauren's mornings, late morning, after coffee. Yeah. Okay, so some of you are coming into your own in the later evening. Okay, late morning, evening. I think this looks like a normal distribution for anyone keeping score at home on the nerdy statistics. All right, when your rhythm returns, let's talk a little bit about when your rhythm returns. One of our really significant breakthroughs in our mission is about the cycle. So we think about what's that causal chain? How do we identify those concepts from day to night? And then how do we develop consistency? That's the part that we're getting after, is developing consistency. Once we outfit a veteran with a Garmin watch, we give them daytime missions, and then we measure the overnight performance that's associated with that. And we find that there's simple things often that make a small difference, and it's the cumulative effect of those small differences. When you think about that cascade, breaking that spiral, it's small incremental amounts that really we find are making that small difference over time. And I know, Ernie, you had already shared some of that, so I'm trying to think through the yes and portion of this conversation on small incremental wins along the way. Yeah, go ahead.
The one that blew my mind was when Dr. O started talking about light and how it affects hormones and how trivial an amount it takes to make a difference. If you could, because I remember the story you shared, but it's your story to share.
Okay. So I will say, if you think back in human history, let's go back 100,000 years. Every bit of light that we see comes from the sun. Even light off the moon is reflected from the sun. When we look at a planet and we're seeing the dot out there, it's from the sun. The sun is creating all the light. When you look at the North Star, the light from the North Star has been traveling 700 years to enter your pupil at 11 o'clock at night, looking towards the North Star. The light has been traveling a long time in our universe. It is extremely valuable, and the timing of the light is extremely valuable, and the pollution created by cell phone signatures is extremely disruptive to the natural human rhythm, tremendously. And if you look at when women have a monthly event, and isn't it interesting that that monthly event is influenced by hormones? And isn't it interesting that the monthly event correlates with the full moon? The light from the full moon going back 50,000 years or 100,000 years was so damn influential that it caused fluctuations in hormones, I believe male and female, and that those fluctuations grew to what they are and continue to be within humankind. It's like, hello, what are the odds of that happening? 1 in a trillion? It's ridiculous. So light is extremely influential in ways we don't even appreciate. And when we are, for example, exposing ourselves to light, it's like the seesaw. The light is making our seesaw tilt in a way that we have insomnia. And then we say, I already tried melatonin, or I already tried this, I already tried that. It doesn't work. Well, the melatonin is a hormone. Of course it works. It was invented when the human became a human. It has to work. If it doesn't work, it's because you're doing something that's tilting your seesaw more than what the hormone is designed to provide. Hormones, you never get tolerance to hormones. You might get tolerance to drugs, but you don't get tolerance to hormones. Hormones always work. It's always been part of the human experience for not 10 years, 20 years. How about 50,000 years? Come on. And light has only entered our lives since 1898 with the evolution of Thomas Alva Edison's light bulb, 1898 in Boston. That made sleep medicine what it is today. It's a treasure trove of sleep deprivation and sleep pathology is what it is. And we don't realize that until we start to get into it more. And then we realize, okay, you take melatonin now, what happens? It knocks me out. Oh, why? What else are you doing? Well, I got the sleep, I got the light, I got the temperature, I got everything else, and I'm knocked out now. So you don't realize how little things make a big difference associated with the other things that you don't know need to be addressed. And that's the secret of finding the combination lock that only you know. And with your desire to find out, you will know. Over.
The part that blew my mind on that is, does the light need to reach your eyes to affect you?
No. Yeah, the light needs to enter your skin. Turns it's interesting. They took do we have time? We got a little time.
Yeah.
They took some test subjects. You can run them down.
You can tell the cave story. Tell the cave
the
story.
the cave story. The cave's the great cave down in Kentucky. You go down there and there's no light. You can't find light anywhere. So they took down some test subjects, and the test subjects had a light behind their knee, strapped to their knee. They couldn't see the light, those long pants. And they measured melatonin from their saliva. And the light, if you had light on under your pants, your melatonin levels were not there. Why? Because the light was entering your skin, being carried by your blood, probably your red corpuscles, and being deposited, the photons are being deposited in your brain, preventing your melatonin from being secreted. Wow.
Yeah, that was the big one for me.
And so light is incredible. And the light signature from our cell phones is like,
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's just the reality.
So
I
Doc,
don't know how that happens. I don't know why that happened. Do you know why that happened?
So Doc, let me share with you this. Ernie had asked me from our sleep checklist that we can provide here to the team from our sleep checklist. And Ernie, this answers your question. If there's one life hack that everyone listening today or listening to the recording can absolutely do, every one of your electronic devices has a built-in feature for you to block blue light. And you can set that feature to turn on as the sun sets. So that's like step one. Be in control of your blue light exposure. That has a long-term effect that just creeps up on you over time. Whether you're Apple or Android or whatever, they all have that feature built in. It's not always easy to find, but go figure they didn't tell you how to do that right away. So that's a hack that you can take advantage of right now. All right, I'm going to ask a question on this slide, and then we'll jump to the last two slides. And I think Ernie told me that I'm the one standing in the way of your lunch, so I don't want to be that guy. Let's fast forward to the future, and you've been able to improve your sleep, and even if it only got 10% better, what part of your life would you look for it to improve? If you had to choose the part of your life that it would improve the most by getting better sleep, what is it? So go ahead and drop your answers in the chat, and we'll go to the next slide. Concentration. All right, focus, relationships, morning energy. Okay, energy, cognitive clarity. Good deal. Okay. In our program, we absolutely measure what matters. Veterans are clearly reporting that the way they dream and their nightmares, they're not as kind of frontal in their mind. They don't seem to be as difficult. We've had veterans neutralize post-traumatic stress feelings, improve mood, increased their heart rate variability for a more optimal outcome, and we can teach you more about that. But we've built in an ability to help them restore hope. I think someone on the earlier call mentioned Pandora's box. The Elpis Alliance, Elpis is the Greek spirit of hope, and it was on the edge of Pandora's box. And when all evil spirit entered into the world, Elpis stayed on the edge of the box. And as a result, hope isn't common amongst mankind. So we have to work at hope every day. And we are in really in-depth partnerships with Mission 22, along with Stop Soldier Suicide, in partnering with their efforts to be able to develop not only this element of sleep from a restorative standpoint, but getting after mental health and neutralizing those elements. Our participant testimonies are in the process of being independently verified by a contractor, as well as our study results have gone to UNC Wilmington, and they are replicating our study design with 100 college students made up of ROTC college students. So when I mentioned that kind of comment about the double-blind, placebo-controlled, peer-reviewed, IRB-approved study, we're tackling that as well. It's a painful reality for us to make large-scale changes. We're preparing ourselves to be able to deliver this to 800 veterans going into 2026. And where we can go with this next, and Ernie, I'm going to jump to slide 10 just to kind of share where Doc and I are going to be spending our time for anyone who's interested. I think the QR code should be working, Ernie, and I can also drop into the chat the information on the quiz. We do have a quiz set up.
Yep, it works.
So I'll drop that in the chat right now for anyone who wants to take the quiz. So we have a quick quiz. And Monique, I'm going to ask that if you can gauge my appropriate level of sarcasm in the survey, that would be a really big help for me to be fact checked on my sarcasm. I appreciate that.
Okay.
And then Dr. O'Brien mentioned that, you know, from the sleep quiz, we are going to do a web-based seminar that you can buy free tickets for. You can get tickets to this event. We don't have a limit on this one, and it's cost-free to those that are on the call today. With that said, those are the two calls to action for us and what we're doing. We know that those that are participating in our program become mentors and guides and coaches to others to pay it forward. And we also recognize that our organization in the future will be eager to learn how you can share this message and provide us with those that are in greatest need of restoring their sleep and overall mental health. So with that said, Dr. O'Brien, I don't know if you had any additional comments to add here. We can stay on the line a little bit for some questions. So I think we have some questions.
Oh, hey,
in
Doc,
the chat.
actually, a good question just came up in the chat. Is it bad if you know you are dreaming and can actively wake yourself up from dreams?
I wouldn't say it's bad. I would say that I'll bet you're sleeping on your back when it happens. And if you have a history of snoring, it can become more disruptive to your sleep than you would naturally otherwise experience.
Yeah, and Doc.
Hey, Matt, were you on your back?
Yeah. So when you're dreaming, you're paralyzed. If you're paralyzed and you're on your back, your tongue goes back about a ½ inch. And if people have tonsils and adenoids and deviated septums, it can change their breathing, and they don't have the strength when they're in dream sleep, because when you're in dream sleep, only 3 muscles work in your entire body. 3: heart, diaphragm, and your eyeballs. So when you're dreaming, you don't have your muscles to suck and to snore. And so you're going to wake up usually with a lack of breathing, oxygen, and very scared or anxious or stressed because of your body and how it breathes, not what you thought it was.
Hey, with that, could you talk about the box breathing and the way the diaphragm works with the parasympathetic?
Yeah. So when we take a big breath in, we're using our chest muscles. Nice big breath, raise up our shoulders, pull all that air in. Our chest becomes longer front to back. But those muscles aren't available when we're dreaming. The only muscles that are available for dreaming is our diaphragm. Well, how do we breathe with our diaphragm? Well, each one of the participants now can actually breathe through their diaphragm. You ready? Pretend you're holding a flower in front of your nose and sniff. Don't snort, don't suck, gentle sniff. That is your diaphragm. That's the only muscle you have to breathe with when you're dreaming. And it's not a strong muscle, but the diaphragm is the first muscle you took your first breath with. It'll be the last muscle you take your last breath with. It's going 24/7, but it's only there when you're dreaming. It's the only one. And a lot of people, if you have a sleep gauntlet problem in REM sleep that prevents you from sleeping as well in REM as other types of sleep, then you're going to have challenges with ADHD symptoms or nightmares or a whole bunch of other stuff that you should be able to sleep through and not have to live through. Over.
With that, could when you guys talk about the box breathing, because I know it's like with the stress thing on the watch, you can watch it. You can watch your stress drop as you're doing it. I thought, honestly, I thought it was BS. I was like, okay, it can't be that good. And then I did it a few times. Like, yeah, he's a doc. I guess he gets it.
The box breathing is, you take a certain effort to breathe in, you hold your breath for a certain period of time, and you let it out gently. There are multiple different techniques. That happens to be a popular one, but not my favorite. Court, I think, likes the box breathing one. My breathing piece is to put my hand on my belly and just make my hand move by just breathing with my diaphragm, and take a long, slow sniff in, hold my breath, and then let it out super easy. And look at your watch. Your stress level just went down 2 points. You do it again, it goes down another point. So you're practicing your power grid, your parasympathetic power grid, which is important to do. And you gives you the objective evidence at the same time. Cord, do you want to comment on the square breathing? Because you're been an advocate of that in our discussions.
Yeah, so where I started, Doc, certainly was in the square breathing because it gives me the 4 seconds on each of those. And over time, I've used the same 4-second interval, but I've modified it to be 4 at the top, 8 at the bottom, and then 12 in the hold, but I'm still using a multiple of 4. So what I've been doing is expanding the bottom of my breath and letting my body get more conditioned to CO2 and not panicking, which helps me with slower breath rates when I sleep. So I'm still using the structure of 4, but it's more of a 4, 8, 12, 4, 4.
Yeah, so suck it in for 4 seconds, hold it for 8, let it go, and then hold 12.
Yep. And
Yeah,
it's giving me
like I
more.
said,
It's giving so, and I can use the watch, and it already is in the 4 seconds. I'm just holding longer and breathing out slower.
it's good stuff. Anybody else have
Yeah,
any
it's
questions?
yep.
Fire them out now, because we're running a little bit close. And if you got the question, now's the time, because I cannot express how much this helped.
Yeah, and Ernie, you did a great job of introducing, I think, a topic for week 3, a topic for week 6, and a week 7 topic of the 8-week program. So
See, I told you I was awake.
Ernie was pulling out the nuggets of his aha moments over the 8-week period.
Yeah, because I tested them and they worked. It's all I can say. But awesome. Hey, Dr. James O'Brien, Court Marshall, Elpis Alliance, thank you very much for coming out, dropping some wisdom. I've repeatedly dropped their information up here in the chat, and I'll drop it one more time. If you want to go to the website, hook up with them on LinkedIn, and get in on the program. If you're feeling it, if your husband's feeling it, your wife's feeling it, these guys can help. I promise you that. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And we'll be